Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining our podcast, Moms on the Move. I'm Jen Wills.
And I'm Jennifer Siss.
We have a special guest with us today, Fallon Hogan with Comfort Keepers.
That's right.
So you are the community liaison.
That's right.
For Comfort Keepers. Okay. So
That's
how did
right.
you get, well, first of all, we go kind of back a little bit.
That's right.
We have so my husband's roommate is your brother-in-law.
That's right.
That's
right.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And I played a little joke on my husband last night. We were on our way to baseball, like I told you. And I was like, he said, what's on your podcast tomorrow? And I was like, Fallon Hogan. And he's like, what are you going to talk about? Because he didn't know what you do. And I was like, the Hogan brothers. Because there's 3 of them. And he's like, what? And I just kept going with it. I was like, I think it'll be really funny.
Oh, that's amazing.
He's like, what are you possibly going to talk about? I was like, I don't know, the shenanigans you and Matt had in college, like just all of it. I was like, Chris, I'm kidding.
Brace yourself, boy. Brace yourself.
We will not air your dirty laundry on this
You were good at doing that to Chris. You were doing it all
I mess with him a lot.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know why it's a sickness. I can't help it.
Because he falls for it.
I know. Okay, so tell me this. How did you get into this?
So, prior to this job, I stayed at home for 4 years, and prior to that, I was in healthcare for 9 years. And I got to stay home. I have 4 babies, and I was very thankful to have that opportunity. But I really love work, and I love healthcare, and I just kind of love the ministry in healthcare, really, and my role. And so I had to be patient because I knew that with having 4 kids, trying to balance work-life balance was important. And I still wanted, husband, children, I wanted family to still be priority. And so I had to be patient, which was hard because I don't sit well. But anyways, I just, this opportunity came along. My boss, I just think highly of, the owners of the company. Their mission is very clear. It comes from the top down. And so it just felt like a right fit to get back into healthcare and to be able to serve people. We're really meeting a need in what our company does. And so it just feels like a gift. It truly does. I love my job. And I feel like we're a real solution where, healthcare can be really hard and confusing. And unless you're in it and experiencing it, you don't know what you don't know. And so it's really nice to step into this situation and be able to say, hey, these are your options, and we can be a solution if it's the right fit.
Yeah. So to clarify, the Comfort Keepers is senior care, at-home senior care, and there's different levels of what your company offers. But, we're saying you went through this personally, and unless you go through it or you're informed prior to the situation, a lot of people have no idea what they're dealing with.
And you panic, and you don't know even the first step.
That's right. That's right. And so we, Comfort Keepers provides caregivers in the home. We're non-medical. And so we really help with personal care, companionship, meal prep, toileting, bathing, personal care.
Transportation, I saw.
Transportation. And really kind of help assist with the activities of daily living, instrumental activities daily of living. And we really try to step in and not only do tasks for these clients, right? We want to do these tasks with the clients, right? It's a real intentional interactual caregiving.
Yeah.
And so what happens most time is people call us once mom has fallen and had to go to the hospital, or there's been a time in which they've noticed a decline but really haven't done anything about it because maybe mom doesn't want help, right? That's hard. And so we often get calls that people are panicked to say, I need help tonight. I need help tomorrow. We don't know what to do. And so that really is what my job is to inform the community about this is who we are and we're a resource, right? And so we really are a solution, but a lot of people don't know that solutions like us exist.
Yeah. So it seems like what you're just saying, a lot of people are very reactive to your services versus in advance, being proactive with it. Is there a time to have the conversation with your parents in advance? I mean, because that's where it gets tricky. It's this whole role reversal that it feels as the children like you're overstepping. And then there's the obvious feelings for them that they don't want to be dependent on their children. I mean, that's a weird, it's just this weird dynamic that totally shifts. So you see how this is such a hard conversation to have. But do you think it's smart to have this in advance? Like, if this were to play out, would you prefer, we call these people, or what do you want?
Yes, there are ways that you can be proactive, and you're exactly right. It is a hard conversation to have. And then just even admitting that you need help is hard. I mean, I think we even understand that as adults and moms, that like we want to do everything by ourselves. We got it. We're independent. We got it. But there does come a point where help and assistance is needed. And so there are things that you can look for to notice that a loved one is declining. Things like skipping meals, weight loss, missing, taking their medication, expired food.
Our house is messy. That's what we noticed. All of a sudden, the clean freak was now messy.
Like forgetting?
And forgetting medicine. That's what we noticed with an extended family member.
Expired food, that's interesting. That's like an interesting one.
Expired food. And one of the ones that I thought was so interesting when I came in to this job was moving furniture around. If you start noticing them rearranging furniture, that's a marker.
It's true. We saw it too.
Yeah.
We saw moving furniture, putting furniture in front of doors. He even took the doorknobs off of the doors.
So just like very abnormal
just
behavior.
Yeah, unusual for
the person. Interesting.
And sometimes it can be larger things like that. And then it can just be subtleties, right? Maybe wearing the same clothes a couple days in a row. And it could be just obviously change in demeanor, isolation. If we've learned anything in these last 2 years, is the detriment of isolation.
Yes.
Right? And so when you start seeing a loved one withdraw, there's just subtleties, and you don't want to wait. You don't want to wait until the fall. You don't want to wait until depression sets in, right? Because then you're looking at a much larger problem. Whereas if you can get support on the front end, right, then you have a caregiver that's in the home that'll probably notice the subtleties even more in advance than you would, because seeing mom or dad every other day or once a week, whatever the case may be, when you do have a caregiver in daily, I mean, you notice things quicker.
It also helps with loneliness, because I know he felt lonely because we can't be there all the time. We were working.
Right.
Everybody's, really heavy into their lives. And when they can't go and do as they please, then they're stuck. And then they become lonely and, like you said, depressed.
When I read, it was like the stressors of aging. And so most people, it's the dependence part, and then knowing like you're just going to deteriorate. That's just what happens. But the fourth on the list was saying the stress of having to leave your home. And I was like, you see that because it's the comfort. It's everything you know, and having to leave all the things that are so familiar to you that you worked so hard to get your whole life, building that home. I think this is such a great service.
Yeah, there's a couple of statistics that I felt like were compelling. 58% of our older adults have been in their same home for 20 plus years. And to not have an option to have to be uprooted from that. Right. Like that's your community. That's your everyday. That's, your special coffee mug and your special place and your route that you enjoy walking, or the neighbor that you engage with, every now and again. That's
the most familiar.
Right.
I mean, you're most comfortable there.
Right.
Well, and I saw that you offer the technology part of it, like teaching technology. And I loved that so much, because I was thinking of it two ways. Like, one, you could approach your parents with, I have a great idea. There's this, company that comes and like teaches this to you. But I'm thinking of it like personally. We had my grandparents before they passed. My mom, they were both 95 when they passed away. She had her iPad, and we emailed every single day. I mean, every single day I'd get her email, and it was like 2 sentences long, but I'd send her what I did the whole day, what my boys were doing. I'd shoot her over pictures, and it was just like the cutest thing, because it gave her that connection.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just so important.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was just,
And for a 95-year-old to be doing an iPad, that's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
So
She
that's
was the
so
youngest
neat.
95.
So they
that
teach
lady.
them.
She was so
Can they
good.
do the medicine, help them with medicine? Because you said it was non-clinical, but can you?
Right. So we do medicine management. So we do have a nursing. We do have private duty nursing that if that is needed, we can certainly offer that. That is a separate service of
Oh,
ours.
good. I didn't know that.
But we do medicine management to make sure that they are taking it properly and on time and things like that.
Right.
So we can kind of stay
And
on
you can
top.
help with like doctors, transportation to doctors.
Doctor's appointments.
I know my mom, she would get her hair done like every week. It's so cute. So, for a while she would go to church every day and drive herself, and then she'd get her hair done. But, once you hit that point, that's another thing that gets taken away is your ability to drive. So having that option that you can continue with the things that are meaningful
that bring you joy.
Yeah.
I mean, some of my favorite stories that I get. I mean, we laugh all the time, y'all, because I ugly cry about some of these stories with what our caregivers are intentionally doing with our clients, right? Like they are intentionally creating moments of joy, and it's real. And the stories that get shared with us, at least once a week, I am crying about something, which is wonderful. But joy rides, like our clients, they lose at some point, right? They lose the ability to drive, and that's independence for them, right?
Yes.
And so it's really cool that we have caregivers that are intentional about saying, like, hey, what brings you joy? Is it a car ride? Then we'll do that,
Get some
right?
ice cream.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, or we have so many clients that have their favorite deli, right? That they go and everybody knows, Mr. Smith at the deli and things like that. And really, the caregiver really becomes part of the family to our clients. And that's our intention, right? Like we want to make sure that the caregivers that are coming in your home are people that you want in your home.
So
right?
it's kind of like a matched.
It's a match. Like,
okay.
And that's really important. It's important not only for our caregivers, because we want them to be happy and, enjoy the clients that they're caring for. But on the flip side, we want the clients and the families to be happy too, because it's a two-way street, right? And then that really, both parties are happy, then that only elevates mental, social, emotional health.
So like in comparison to we kind of touched on this before, but the full-on assisted living facilities, which, I looked and they're so expensive. I mean, they're on average, it said across the country, it was $5,000 a month. But you were saying most of them are not even 24-hour care.
Right. So assisted living is not 24/7 care.
Yeah, okay.
And so we do have the ability to come into assisted livings or even skilled nursing facilities and provide additional care. So that's really nice option too, that if a loved one does have to go into skilled or assisted for whatever reasons the family decides,
right.
We can provide additional support and help and just be extra eyes, just to help assist with whatever, the family's goals might be.
Yeah.
So.
What was your experience with?
Well, I was going to say the one we were with our experience when we put him in, you said it wasn't 24/7 where they're watching him. They noticed he wasn't eating and they couldn't figure out why. So they kept telling him, what do you want? And he would tell them what he wanted, but he still didn't eat. If there would have been somebody else on the 24/7 care like you were talking about or anything else, like he's now in dementia care. So of course there's 24/7 care.
Right.
But then his dentures had broken. Nobody knew that, right? Because we're not in there all the time, and there was nobody in there all the time to see that that's what was going on. So you're right. When you put them in those facilities, their needs are met, their food, they're checked in, they can ring a bell, but those things slip through the cracks. So it's so neat that you can come in and assist even while they're being assisted.
Right.
That's awesome.
What was his feelings on going? Was there like pushback?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because he wasn't all the way gone. So I don't want to say trick, but that's what we kind of did. But we did bring his cat, and that helped the transition a little bit. But literally, like anything else, once you get them in there and they get settled, it was better. But then we knew the decline was happening, and so now he's in full-time care. But and he was one where we tried to do it on our own,
right?
And not Mike and I, but another family member tried to take him in, and he kept leaving and set the alarm off. And it just gets to a point where you need somebody all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And, it doesn't always mean you have to go into, if you can afford the other or have you, it'd be so much better. My parents have already told me they're not there yet, but they've already told me, don't you bring somebody in. So we've already had to talk.
See, that's so good.
We've had to talk. Yeah.
It's so good.
Because they love their home.
Yeah.
And but sometimes you can't. I mean, sometimes it.
Right. And we can cater to what the family needs. I mean, there's often times that the mornings are harder or their afternoons are harder, or overnights are harder. And so we don't have to be 24/7.
Right.
We can cater our care to what suits the family, best. And, sometimes it is that son can be at the home in the evening and wants to eat dinner with mom and dad or dad and wants to take that role and help get dad to bed. Great. Then we can come in the morning when you can't be there, when you're busy with getting kids to school or whatever the case may be.
Right.
It's like a rotation. Everybody kind of takes their turn.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. I know. I feel like the whole conversation, it's like, unless you do it in advance and you're not, again, like reacting to something, it just seems so much. We had a podcast, I guess we did wills and estates and just kind of the importance of having this stuff done before you realize you need it. Just saving such a headache and making your wishes known in advance so there's not fighting within the family.
Right.
So it's, a little bit kind of similar. I mean, I see that because, if you're like, don't agree with your siblings on the best thing, that can create some family tension. And, but yeah, I was like, even seeing like the best approach to have with their parents. And a lot of it was like funny. It reminded me of being a mom. So the other day we were like at a bowling alley for a birthday party and there was a mom who just had her baby and the dad came over and he said, do you need me to grab her? And she said, no, I'm good. And then he looked at her and he goes, can I please take her? And she's like, sure. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just all in the wording. Like it was just like so different because you're not going to admit you need something.
Right.
You want someone to like volunteer and take that approach. And it's just so different. So like instead of saying, do you need me to change that light bulb or don't do that? It's like, may I please go clean your gutters? May I please do this? And it's just all in the approach. I thought that was just kind of,
That is
I don't know.
true.
And I saw it the other day and I was like, oh, wow. How do I approach my husband about like picking up his laundry?
Yeah, we do that. I had a
May
hard,
you please?
Yeah. It's all in how you say it and, and how you look. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, how I look.
Just
wearing the
kidding.
robe
Just
you gave
kidding.
me.
Right. Apron, whatever. But here's a harder question because we've run into this with my extended family that lived in St. Augustine, Florida. And then, of course, with my husband's father. How do you vet your caregivers? Because you want quality, you want good ones, and we've run into some that were not, and some instances that have happened to us personally. So that's a harder question, but how do you?
It's a great question, though. It's an important question.
Is.
What I really love, so Comfort Keepers, we are a national company. There are 700 locations worldwide. Out of those 700 locations, we have consistently ranked in the top 25.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's pretty darn cool
That's great.
that I can say you're getting the best care. The reason we're getting the best care is a few reasons. Because we're a national company, international company, we have different standards, right? So our caregivers, they have to be vetted not only statewide, right, but also nationally.
Oh, wow.
So somebody can't go do something in Alabama and then move to Greenville and us never know about it, right? So we have a broader scope that we vet, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
Not only just criminal backgrounds, but then also driving records and things like that, and drug screening and things like that. So we do kind of those necessary nuances. But what I think is so cool, and I see it with the Cushels who own our location. They own the Greenville location, the Spartanburg location, and the Tryon, North Carolina location. So we've got quite a broad reach. But they really put an emphasis on our caregivers because they understand that having the right caregivers and taking care of the caregivers ultimately is the best thing for all of us, right? And so it just shows they don't just hire anyone,
Yeah.
And even like, goodness, this last couple of years, staffing is just been wild. They didn't hire just anybody, And so they've really stuck to their principles and their values there. And so I really, the Cushels will not hire a caregiver that they don't want in their own home, which I think is really cool and a hard standard to live by.
Well, it gives me chills because it's so, so important because it takes every ounce of patience, because a lot of the clients or patients, whatever you want to call them, are they're scared and they react, and you might get that defense, mechanism. You might get pushback, and you have to be so patient with them and understanding and live in their world and be on their level.
Yeah.
So, and some just can't do it.
No, and that's the thing. The reason I ugly cry once a week is because these caregivers have a heart for it, and you cannot teach that.
No, there's certain jobs that just are so the people that do these jobs. I always look at my preschool teachers, oh my gosh, saints. But this is another one.
Yes.
Just absolutely kind souls.
Yes, they have to have a servant heart, and we make sure we kind of put things in place to further encourage that, right? We put trainings in place and education in place to say this is important and this is why it's important, right? We do things to make sure we're checking that. Are you engaging the patient on a client, on a personal level, right? Are you engaging them to say what makes your heart beat? What brings you joy, right? And then how are we engaging that, And so it's really neat when having the right caregivers in place and then matching them with the appropriate client is that it's a rewarding.
And you're taking care of your workers.
Yeah.
Taking care of, your caregivers. That makes all the difference. You have to take care of them and make sure they have what they need.
They do, because happy workers produce happy results, right?
Exactly.
And I know, again, this is a nationwide company, so specific. We're not going to get into the definitive costs of this, but ways to pay, because you mentioned sometimes, and again, this is different for everyone, but sometimes you can go into your life insurance. So can you kind of talk on that? Because I feel like that's, again, where people just have no idea. I have no idea with how this would work.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
You panic again because it involves money.
Yes.
A lot of it.
Right. Yes. So private pay is probably the larger way people pay private pay. But then there are options for long-term care policies. If there's long-term care policies, they will pay for this. Sometimes even
through insurance, you mean?
Through their those policies, and sometimes with long-term care policies, you have a 90-day elimination period. So let's say you had already decided mom and dad's going to go to facility, right? And that's just but they have a long-term care policy that's going to cover it, right? We can step in and help assist with the 90-day elimination period to go ahead and get that started while they're still at their home, right? Get that 90 days covered. And then we can really help transition into the facility because it's a familiar face, familiar person, kind of like the cat, right?
Right.
We can help with that transition and then them into the facility.
Okay.
But long-term care policies also can pay for clients to be in their home as well, long-term.
Okay.
And then there's also other options, VA benefits. There's aid and attendance for that, which we can assist with if that's an option. And then sometimes life insurance policies. There's a few qualifiers on that, on dollar value that's already invested, age of clients, things like that. So there are some nuances with that, but that can possibly be an option.
Okay. That's just even good to know. That's an option.
Yeah.
I think this was such a good conversation because it's just, quality of life and just something out there that kind of gives you that comfort knowing it is out there and available.
Right.
So, real quick, where can people find you, even just to ask questions or start this relationship?
So with our Greenville location, you can give us a call at 864-268-8993, or you can reach us online, which is just comfortkeepers.com. And then we're on Facebook and Instagram under the handles of Comfort Keepers of Greenville, South Carolina, and Comfort Keepers of Spartanburg, South Carolina. And we really would love to be a resource for you, even if you don't know what direction you're going, even if you're at the beginning of this journey. We have lots of resources that we really can kind of step in and help you evaluate to say, are we ready? Where are we at?
Yes.
And if we're not the solution, that's okay. We just want to be able to provide support in any way that we can, because it's a it's a vulnerable position
It
to be
is.
in.
Mm-hmm.
We have these conversations all the time. So even if you're like, hey, I just need some help, and having this conversation and what this looks like, we're happy to kind of step in to kind of help guide you.
Know where to go or the next
Exactly.
step or who to call, where do I go? You could direct us.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
if we didn't need you, you would still be able to say, okay, here's A, B, and C,
This
what
is
you
what
need
I
to do.
recommend.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you came.
Thank y'all. This is so fun.
And next time we'll talk about the Hogan boys.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you again for coming. And we want to thank our sponsors real quick. We want to thank Amanda McCall with Prime Lending, Nest Realty, Browning Studio, Bodyworks, Parham Smith Archenhold, Blackacre Law, and Dressed by Southern Girl Chic. So thank you so much to everybody, and reach out to Fallon. She's incredible. So thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you next time.